Only going to the range and never dry firing is like trying to learn a trade by only ever taking tests and never studying. Today we're going to go over how to dry fire properly, effectively, and not having to spend a ton of money on all those fancy gadgets. Here we go. So for starters, let's talk about what exactly dry fire is. And what it is training you can do without any ammo. And why that's important is because you can train twice as much, and actually you can train as much as you want and you don't have to spend a dime. This is free, you don't need fancy equipment, and you can do this right at home. Now the basic gist is simulating actual shooting actions without actually doing so. So you're going to practice drawing, sight alignment, trigger pull, all that stuff. You can do mag changes, do tons of those. So usually you can do them over a bed or a dresser, something like that. There's a lot of different things you can do that don't involve actually shooting to create just repetition and muscle memory. So when you go to the actual range, you're ready to go. Legitimately, the difference between a really good shooter and an average or even a sucky shooter usually boils down to dry fire training, unless you have unlimited funds and can shoot as much ammo as you want to practice. Because if you could do that, I'm sure that'd be better. If you could go, every single day for a half hour, whole hour, something like that, and just burn 500 rounds, yeah, that'd be better. But most of us, that's not where we're at. So for starters, we'll talk about targets. Now, some people get real crazy with different targeting systems and stuff like that. Me, everything is a target in my house, and the smaller the better. I'll pick a nail on the wall, I'll put a sticker on the curtains, something like that, doorknobs, picture frames, whatever happens to be around, I'll just pick to be a target. It's pretty straightforward. So don't get too crazy with it. That's another spot you can spend a lot of money. Pick something on the wall. If you got little hair clips or something, I clip a couple across the curtains in my room. You can hop back and forth. Don't get too crazy on targets, it's pretty easy. So we've already established that you basically have to dry fire to be a good shooter for most people's situations. So let's get into what we actually do. So there's a bunch of different types of dry fire you can do. Some people consider dry fire nothing more than racking their gun, pointing at the target, and pulling the trigger. And that's something you can do if you just need to practice trigger pull. If you're a very new gun owner, that might be essential. You may not know how to squeeze rather than pull, finding the wall, and all that stuff. So that's something you can do. We're going to break it down into different functions and different type of practice that you can do. We're going to start with drawing from a holster, and I break that down into 3 sections. That's a really good way of how to do it, where it's not just a full draw. So let's get into that right now. So I break drawing from a holster down into 3 sections. The first section is your hand going from your side to your grip, like so. The next section is from your holster and the grip, drawing, coming to a compressed ready, and deactivating your safety. And the last section is coming up, getting your sight picture and your target, and that's pretty much it. After that, you can fire. So we're going to do that into 3 sections. And how we're going to do that is we're not going to do it all at once till the end. What we're going to do is we're going to go each section and practice the muscle memory. It's like the old saying, would you rather fear someone who's practiced 1,000 things once or one thing 1,000 times? So what we're going to do is we're going to start with our hand. I usually start with my wrists just touching the pistol. Sometimes competitions you can't, you may have to start off. For me, I like to take this forearm and just rest it on the gun. And what you're going to do is you're going to pop up and just get your gun. And what you're doing when you do this on repetition is you're getting the muscle memory to that when you come up, you're actually getting a full grip right in there under the beaver tail or whatever your pistol has, and your finger on the gun. You want to have this hand completely perfect right as you grab it in your holster before anything else even happens, because if this is not all the way there, you're going to come up and be fumbling. You might be able to get one good shot off, but any follow-up shots are going to be astray. So that's going to be very important. So what you're going to do is you're going to be holstered, and you're just going to basically, as many times as your brain can handle before it gets too monotonous, and you want to get it until it is absolutely perfect. And once you get it perfect, you should be increasing the speed, not the speed of the repetition, but the speed from start to stop. So here, you should have almost a jolt. Now, I don't use my elbow like coming up like that. I actually use a mixture of that and my shoulder. So it's kind of a little shrug, and then you're on your pistol, as you can see right there. That's your first step. Now, Ignore that. You don't want to do that each time. Start on there with a perfect grip, and you're going to come up, compressed ready, and that's where you're going to form your proper grip. That's going to be right here. This meaty part of your palm fills this gap, fingers in the finger grooves, thumb in the frame right there. Other thumb, now normally for like a Glock, you're going to be on top of this hand. For pistols like this, like 2011s, you want to rest on the safety so you don't accidentally turn the safety on. So that's a little difference if you're shooting a striker fire, and you're basically going to have your grip there, and that's what you're creating in this compressed ready. That's our second one. So back in your holster, and you don't even take your hand off the gun for this one. You stay in your holster, compressed ready. Holster, compressed ready, and you shouldn't even have to look at it. You should be able to be watching your target come up and right in, like that when I fumbled a little, just like that. The last section, you can start in compressed ready. And this is where you're going to have a direct line of sight to your target. You're going to come up, and your sight should land right on your target. If you're coming up, if you're playing Call of Duty and you pull your aimer up and that thing's all over the place, you'd be pissed. So make sure you don't have that in real life. You want to get where your sight's there and you're ready to fire immediately. And basically go out. And this is the one you're going to want to practice the most. Now you can keep your finger off the trigger. Usually if I'm presenting to that level on a target, I also slip my finger in there and rest it on the trigger, and then maybe even depending on the type of shooting I'm doing, I might already be taking that take up and get into that wall to fire. So you're gonna go right, compress ready, you're gonna land on the target. And this, once again, it shouldn't be a slow push, and you're not presenting all the way out. You're having your bowed elbows. We'll do another video on the proper posture and recoil management, but you're gonna be right here, pop up, on target. This is probably the one you're going to need to spend the most time on, because it is the trickiest to learn, especially if you're switching to a new pistol optic, something like that. And it's going to be something that's you're going to be doing for a long time. You don't shoot for a couple of weeks or something like that, you'll come and you won't be able to find your dot again, and you got to go back, start rebuilding that muscle memory again. So once you're done, you can start down, safety on your pistol, hand on there, and that's the whole thing. The middle section, it's not as tight of a compressed ready. When you're in full force, you're going to be coming up, and it kind of happens on the fly. But all three of those actions happen, and you're better off practicing them separately, like so. And if you can't tell, as soon as you get your second hand on, that's when the safety goes off. And when you're drawing, you want to have it where you're not coming up and muzzling yourself the whole way. You want to have positive pressure going forward. So as soon as it comes out of the holster, it flips somewhat like that. Hard to tell when you're going quick, but basically you're coming up, safety's off, and you're ready to fire. Now you can add the trigger pull into that, and right there. And this is where it actually becomes dry fire, but you don't want to do this until you've isolated all three of those sections. So if you're wondering about this shirt I'm wearing, these are actually pretty interesting. This is a tactical flannel shirt, so you can have all the nice features of tactical shirts like vented sides, pouches, slots for elbow pads and stuff. And you don't gotta wear camo all the time. If you're at a competition, you can just keep it kind of light. So I'm actually having these made. This is a prototype right here. The permanent one's most likely gonna be ripstop and stuff like that. Check out the link in the description to my website to get on the email list, because when these come out, we're gonna have a very limited run for a pre-order. So if you get on the website email list, I'll make sure you get a heads up when that's coming. And then they got some pretty sweet pants that go with them that are very tactical like. You wouldn't wear them in public, but at the range or at matches, they're super nice. So make sure you check that out. So I gotta say, this Armazika is not gonna fill the role, duty, carry, all that. It's a race gun, but I will say this is the greatest pistol I've ever put my hands on, and this Meprolite enclosed emitter optic is pretty much a perfect pairing for it. I love this thing. So that covers your basic drawing. Now you're gonna wanna go from target transition. And it's honestly much more simple. Like drawing is probably the most complicated part, especially with the sight picture. So for multiple targets, you can, once again, isolate it so you're not focusing on too much. Pick as many targets as you can get. For me, I'll put stickers across a whole, maybe 2 walls in my house. And you basically, both eyes open, push to the first target, and then switch to your next one. And how that's gonna be is, you're not going to be looking through your sight going from target to target. You're going to be on your bullseye. your eyes are going to snap to the next one and immediately be followed by your pistol. Eyes, pistol, like so. Eyes, pistol, eyes, pistol. So what you're gonna do is pick multiple targets, present, and you're just gonna go back and forth. It seems funny, but it does a lot. When you get used to the sight picture from that, you can start adding a dry fire. You can pop on one, reset, or you can start on one, move to the next one and pull your trigger. Move to the next one, pull your trigger. And this is gonna train that transition from target to target, and you're not moving your arms, you're actually moving your upper torso, your whole body kind of like a turret. And that will get your transitions quicker. This won't work on every gun, but this particular one, when you're not firing, the trigger's so light, you can almost just pull the trigger without it racked, and it gives you a similar trigger pull to the real one, because this trigger is like 1.7 pounds. So for this one, I have an advantage where I can actually go back and forth without any negatives. On a completely different note, if you're a huge fan of firearms and all this, make sure you join the Second Amendment Foundation, link in the description. This is not a paid ad. I support them because I actually believe in them, and they do a lot of work for us, so I believe we should support them back. So that was free. Check that out though. This Armazika slaps. This thing is unbelievably accurate. Now this last one, I'm not gonna do too much at the range because it's a pain out here, but basically what you're gonna do is start with your mag and your pistol. If it's empty, make sure, I'm at the range, so I have live ammo and everything, so it's a little different, but you're gonna put an empty mag in, and you're gonna have your slide locked back. You're going to go stand with your knees touching your bed. This will make your life a lot easier. Load up your shooting belt with all the mags you've got. Use your rifle pouches if you want, just to get more reps in. And you're basically gonna come up like you were shooting. You're gonna simulate a slide lock, come back and drop your mag, pull another one from your belt, put it in, and drop your slide. And then why you have it next to your bed is that unless you want to pick them off the floor every time, if you're leaning on your bed, all your mags will fall onto your bed. You go through however many mags you've got, reset, load up your belt again, and start over. So you're gonna start presented out, slide lock, and you're back up. And that's pretty much it. If you do this system, you will go from like a 5-second pistol reload, and within 2 weeks, you'll be down to 1.7 seconds. That was my peak, which isn't the fastest, but it was all right. And that was shot to shot with a shot timer. Definitely a great way to do it, and it's pretty simple. So now after all that dry fire training, you can come to the range and you can actually try something out. So get your shot timer. I like these packs. I'll have a link for these, by the way, you can check them out. So you set your shot timer off and they're all hits. Not too shabby. Remember to reload a little, but you'll have that.